let's learn how to animate mesh data using QGIS. So for this tutorial, we're going to be using data from Natural Earth as well as Era 5 hourly data on single levels from Copernicus. And we will use the reanalysis data and check that we have both wind components. And at the time I developed this visualization, it was around when Typhoon Kalmaegi made landfall in the Philippines. So this was in the beginning of November 2025. So we'll select those time periods and all of the hours that we can get. And then I used this bounding box finder website to figure out roughly what dimensions I wanted to download and exported them as a GRIB file. In QGIS, I already have my natural earth data of countries, the ocean, shaded relief, and populated places loaded. And now we can just add our mesh data set. And you can do that by going to the layer menu and hovering over add layer. And then you add mesh layer and navigate to where you have that GRIB file downloaded from Copernicus. And to style the mesh layer in the same way that I did, we will right-click it and go to its properties, and we will check vectors instead of contours. And under symbology, we will use traces, and the coloring method will be color ramp shader. And then you can decide what colors you want to use. I went for this bright purple. And then you can design your natural earth layers as you liked. I, for example, used this ocean vector layer with a white fill and a shaded relief with an overlay blending mode and had adjusted brightness. And then I also adjusted my country layers to be a grayish white with a darker gray outline. And now we're going to want to also prep the cities that we want to label. So since this map is about Kalmaegi's landfall in the Philippines, I'll add some major cities in Philippines as well as its capital. And I'll also make the capital a little bit more prominent with a mixture of a star and circle symbol. And I'll also make sure that the label has a slightly larger font. And this is good enough for now, but I think I'll likely make this symbol larger once we do the final touches on our map. And now if you want to already see how your animation is coming along, you can click on the temporal controller, which is this clock button. And the next thing that this map animation is missing is a title and labels. So we're going to add this using some decorations. So you'll go over to the view menu and hover over decorations. And first you'll add your title and style it how you'd like. I then use this copyright input to add my name and data source. And next we'll make the legend using an image hack. So I'll first screenshot my color ramp here and add it as an image. And now we'll add other labels like the seas and the oceans around the Philippines and our legend labels. So you'll make a temporary scratch layer of points, and you'll add a column for your X label placement and your Y label placement, as well as a column for the label names themselves. And then you can begin to style them how you want. Just as a little tip, if you want to actually be able to move those labels freely, in the properties of the label layer, you will go to placement, data defined, and then put in your X and Y label columns respectively. And from there, if your layer is in edit mode with this pencil here, you can move these labels around freely. And although you should be aware that this won't actually move the actual point that it's tied to, just the label itself, so just be aware of that. So now we're actually going to add another temporary scratch layer, another point layer, but this time it's going to be for the time element. So I have this formula right here that we can use to gather that. And now we're just going to do our final touches. So you'll just adjust the rest of the map to whatever looks great to your eye. There's a lot of trial and error here, moving labels around, increasing or decreasing sizes, aligning things, and so on. But once you're ready to actually export and you have your map extent in the final format that you want your animation to be in, you can go to that temporal controller again and click this save button and save all your photos in one place, and then you can drop all of those frames into your favorite animation software, whether that's GIMP or iMovie, Canva, Premiere, any of them work. And boom, there is your animated map using mesh data in QGIS.